Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and podcast. We are back with a live match reaction. Thought we'd try something different this week just because that result was so sweet. As Decker isn't here, Chris, do you want to say those magic words in his place?
I've been waiting for years for this moment, absolute years.
I'll pass the baton to you. Well, that way.
Get in!
Get in! Yes, we did. We've just beaten Manchester United 2-0 on our own stomping ground. Perfect for revenge for that cup final, which they said was 5 weeks ago, and it doesn't feel like 5 weeks. It feels a lot longer. We'll jump right into it. Obviously, I'm Scott. I'm your host for this. And this week, I'm joined by Chris, Joe, and Daniel, who you may have seen on the FPL show. Lads, hope everyone is very well. Hope everyone's very happy. There should be smiling faces for everybody and everybody watching at home as well. Chris, I'll stick with you, mate. Team sheet was unchanged, but the bench did seem a lot stronger. Were you shocked at all that there was no changes, or were you expecting like for like from last week or the last 2 weeks ago?
The only shock I would say is I think a lot of were expecting Joe Linton to come straight back in and possibly Maxi to be dropped, because we know how well it worked with Willick and Joe Linton using that left-hand side to their advantage. That's the only shock for me. I'm pleased Eddie Howe stuck with Maxi, because that's obviously two wins with the same starting 11 really back to back. Well, 3 now if you look at this game. So I'm glad Eddie Howe stuck with the lads and showed faith in them. But even more of a decision for him midweek now to who starts yet again.
It is. And Joe, it was, like I said before, it was quite a strong bench. The squads, I think Mickey Almiron's the only one who's really out injured, who you would say is a regular starter. We're starting to see more depth coming in just from the players that are returning. It's nice to see, isn't it? It's nice to see a bit of challenging positions and a bit of depth.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a major problem with injuries across this whole season. I think there's only been 2 or 3 teams that have had a worse record than us. I know Liverpool, I believe, are top, but we've not had a chance to experiment around with a lot of different players in any one game. With Eddie Howe's almost been sort of like hamstrung by some of the personnel that he can put out onto the pitch. Don't get me wrong, it's obviously worked for the most part, but to have those options, like you say, coming off the bench, I mean, how often do you see triple subs in a game? He did it against Man City, which nearly paid dividends. We saw it here this game, and it can really change the dynamic of the game. And I know that Ten Hag as well, he made a lot of substitutions. So it's really important to have those options to really counter what the other team are doing. So it was fantastic. It was great to see, fantastic to see. And yeah, like you say, the selection headache that Eddie Howe's now got on his hands is, I mean, it's a great one to have, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays it.
Yeah, we do have West Ham on Wednesday and then another game at the weekend. So a lot of games in quick succession. So you'll probably expect some rotation for the next game. We will be doing a preview for that. I think we're recording that tomorrow. So plenty of videos coming your way on this channel. Daniel, we'll jump into the game. First 20 minutes, it was all us, right?
Yeah, it was. It was ironic that before the game, Ten Hag was talking about our Atletico Madrid-style tactics. And about 20 minutes into the game, which is where we sort of slowed down a little bit, maybe a little bit later on, was because that's exactly what Man United were doing. They were forced to make the game as scrappy as possible. A few Boris Johnson-style rugby tackles. If anyone's seen that video of him rugby tackling that kid, a few of them going around. And that was the only way that they could stop us. The intensity for that first 20 minutes was just mind-blowing for a Newcastle fan to sit there and watch. And after the game, I said to my stepdad, this must be how Man United fans have felt all their lives, watching them play at home against us.
Yeah,
it was just from start to finish. We absolutely battered them. And I think maybe we wouldn't be so joyous and talking about it in such a way if Willick hadn't made up for a couple of those misses early doors. But who cares? We've got the win, and I've never seen us deserve a win more in my life. I don't think. It was just amazing to watch.
That was up there. Scott to jump in. That was up there for me with performance of the season so far.
Comfortably.
We've had some decent results this season, probably beaten any sort of expectation we've ever had. But like you said at the very start, this Scott, obviously we're still feeling a bit of annoyance from the cup final display from the lads, and they've gone out today and absolutely battered them from start to finish. They didn't get a sniff, not once.
Yeah, and as good as some of our performances have been, there's always been at least over a 20-30 minute spell where we sort of die off and let them back into the game. I can't remember the last time, maybe the Southampton away game, where we were so consistently dominant from start to finish. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, well, Daniel brought up a couple of points about Joe Willock and Chris. He should have had 2 before the first half was over. He had that close range chance, and then not so long after, he had that chance where Maxi put it on a plate for him, and he just seemed to lean back and he put it over the bar. He said himself on Sky Sports News, on Sky, they were interviewing him after the game, and he was like, "I should have had a hat trick today." Do you think goals will become more natural for Joe Willock now he's kind of got his eye in and he's getting a bit more confidence?
This is something we're seeing quite a lot from Joe Willock. Joe Willock is a different player to what we're loaned from Arsenal that season, when he was absolutely banging every single chance in. He does miss a couple. He does, but the best thing about Willock is that he doesn't give up. And like we're seeing today, he's always involved at some point throughout, obviously, whether that be build-up play, assist, or grabbing the goal at the end of it. And honestly, he deservedly man of the match today for me. But you could have threw your cap on any single one of those lads today, because every single one of them was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was an all-round amazing team performance. We'll talk about some of the highlights in that first half. Obviously, we discussed the 2 Joe Willock incidences. I think Sean Longstaff, Joe, had a chance early on as well from very close range, and it was there seemed to be a lot of blocks coming in from Man U. They seem to be quite scrappy in defence and just throwing the last man at the ball. What was your opinion on their defensive display? Because normally they're quite solid. Well, I say normally, they got beat 7-0 a couple of weeks ago, but normally you expect it to be quite solid.
Normally, yes. Well, their fullbacks had to be on absolute top form to deal with our wingers. I thought Dalot to be fair, I thought he did actually quite well against Maxi to keep him from doing what he wanted to do originally, which was go down the left-hand side and cross it in. He was kind of forcing him to then come back inside. But then what Maxi just did was he would just create more chances by either drawing players in and then passing it out right, or he would do some interchange play with Isak and stuff. So yeah, they really did struggle. You're right. Varane, Martinez, there were so many times, or Isak had a few opportunities on the edge of the box where fraction of a second earlier, if he had pulled the trigger fraction of a second earlier, he would have gotten a really good shot on target away. And you're right, they were really down in the ditches. They were fighting for their lives to keep us out. Yeah, they were solid, but we were just relentless.
Yeah.
Man United have the 4th worst defensive record away from home, but the best at home. So wow. I think we exploited that today. I actually thought in the first half, I thought Martinez was all right. Generally, I thought him and David De Gea were the 2 that turned up for them. I do agree with you, Joe. I do thought in the first half, Dalot actually coped relatively well with Saint-Maximin. But Saint-Maximin's value doesn't necessarily come from just... we all wanted to get more goals and assists. I think it's a regular criticism of him, and I think it's fair. But that's not the full value that he brings. He will run at you for 60, 70, 80 minutes at full pelt, and it's attritional. It gets worse and worse and worse. And by the end, Dalot looked like he was blown and he needed a hospital bed. And then for him to get subbed off and then Big Joe Linton comes on. Can you imagine that? Having Saint-Maximin run at you for 70 minutes and you've got to face him. So I thought he did well up until that point, but at the second half, Maximin just had him on toast. So yeah, I think literally 2 of them turned up. I know jumping into the second half a little bit, but that save from De Gea is the best save that's been at St James's Park this season. Was it Joe Linton with a header? It was just
the double save, was it? You're talking about?
It was the one in the second half. I think it was Joe Linton's header, and he's tipped it onto the bar.
He tipped on the bar, didn't he?
Yeah. And Shaw's came in and got kicked there. I think Martial tipped onto the post. So yeah, I think those 2 turned up defensively today, and the rest were just an absolute mess. Sabitzer playing holding midfield, because he played there for Bayern Munich, but he was originally a number 10 / a little bit of a right winger for Leipzig. So he's always been an attacking midfielder. Then when he signed for Bayern, because they couldn't shoehorn him into all the other positions that are there, they were like, oh, we'll play you deeper. Goretzka got injured, so they played him there. Now Ten Hag seems to just think, oh, well, he can play in holding midfield. And I think today is evident. No, he can't at all.
I mean,
it was almost like him and...
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here about Maxi. Yeah, I'm not sure. Somebody doesn't have the phone on Do Not Disturb, so somebody change that.
Sorry,
because this will be a pain in the arse for people listening to audio. Where it'll just go zzz, zzz, every 2 minutes. Whack it on Do Not Disturb while I go on my rant. So in the ground, right? I'm normally pretty relaxed around those sitting around us. Okay, I don't normally kick off very often, and today was the day where I couldn't sit and just not bite, because Maxi was getting slated by the people around me. And I'm watching that game and people are going, why is he not pushing on? Why is he not pushing on? He's 100% pushing on, but from our angle where we're sat in the Gallowgate, it probably looks like he's not, but he's 100% running towards the ball. We know Maxi doesn't run into those spaces. He doesn't. He likes the ball at his feet, then move from there. And this was my point, right? Every single time that, because Dan Burn pushed up quite a bit this game, and Dan Burn was just finding himself everywhere on that left-hand side, drifting in the middle. And every time Dan Burn got the ball, as soon as Maxi made any sort of movement, whether or not that was pushing up the field or just staying where he was taking 2 players with him. He didn't even have the ball, and he was taking 2 players with him. That's what you're getting from Maxi, because the defenders are shit scared in case he gets the ball, because he embarrasses players left, right, and centre, and he keeps on doing it over and over again. Yes, some of his decisions will probably think he should have done better in that sort of passage of play. But I thought he had a great game today. I think he did. And people turn around and say that game and say, well, Maxi was shy. He was the worst player on the field. But to me, what he gives to the team without the ball is fantastic.
I mean, I'm completely with you. I thought his decision making was almost completely spot on. There were passes he was making where the St. Maximin of a season or 2 seasons ago wouldn't have made. Mm-hmm. He's looking up more. He's trying to bring players more into play and to interlink with them more. But you're right. He's doing that while also still drawing defenders away from him. So he's becoming that more complete rounded player that he needs to be to work well with this team as it is. I think he's not the finished product yet with what Eddie Howe will want from him, but he's taken hell of a stride to get there. I think he's really coming leaps and bounds. The thing
that annoys me, I don't want to focus this on Maxi, but the thing that annoys me is that if Maxi does something on the left hand side, he's the worst person in the world. Okay, if it's on the right hand side, Murphy does exactly the same. Nobody cares. That's what frustrates me.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing about Maxi and Murphy being obviously on the opposite wings and doing what they do, they were offering something different. Most of our attack came down the right-hand side in the first 20, 30 minutes, but then the few times that Maxi was getting on the ball, all of a sudden, he was able to cut inside. He was able to bring the midfielders more into play. He was getting Bruno involved. It's just causing them a lot of different problems.
I think for me, the difference for Maxi this week was he was cutting inside, but he was finding the pass. Normally, you'd see him cut inside the outside the box, and he'll take a shot, and it'll just bounce off one of the defenders, or it'll ricochet. But he was actually playing people in, and there was a couple of times where, had we had our shooting boots on, we probably could have been 3-4 goals in, and he would have had all the assists because he was just kept providing those balls to like the middle of the box, outside the box. Yeah. I think Longstaff had a shot outside. Yeah. When Longstaff had that shot outside, I had flashbacks of his brother a couple of seasons ago, and when it was Willems who cut the ball into him after that nice little bit of skill. Before that was in, that was a lovely shot. We'll come to the first goal. We did have to wait until the second half, but it came. Joe Willick finally getting the goal. But I want to talk about the build-up to that goal, because for me, that was one of the best team goals I've seen from us this season. It was, I think, Dan Burn wins the ball back, Daniel, and then it falls to Isak, who, I don't know what it is with that boy, but he can control the ball from any angle, from anywhere. And I'll let you talk us through the rest of it if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's not just. I mean, the touch is brilliant, but you see, he just delays sometimes a forward in that area wants to get that pass off as quickly as possible. He just delays it just a second, and then the pass is perfectly timed for Bruno. Some people may have thought he was going to shoot from that. I watched the game with my stepdad, and he's like, "What are you doing?" when he's put that ball into the back post. And the awareness of Saint-Maximin to just put it on a plate for Willick. And it's not just that. It's easier said than done. I think a lot of players maybe try that, but do they still put it into his arm? So they put it behind the player, and he's just put it right into his path. One that was impossible to miss, although I would have said that about the first chance in the first half as well anyway. And you're right, watching it back, it was like watching Brazil play football. It was just absolutely immaculate football. And we've had a little bit of stick recently, like Ten Hag before the game. I think some people maybe watched that Arsenal game where we went there to just cause an upset, disrupt the flow of the game. And as we mentioned earlier on, we have struggled a little bit since the World Cup. I think the League Cup's been on our mind, even before the final, just concentrating on that. And now that monkey's sort of off our back, it's nice to show what we're really capable of. And the very first thing was said was that squad depth that we've got now is that when we struggle a little bit now, there's always those extra bodies to come off the bench. So it means that you can put more into the first 60, 70 minutes because you can put everything in. And if you're tired, you know that there's players to come on that aren't Mankio and Matt Ritchie and the rest of them. So it made us feel proud, that goal. It was just amazing to watch.
Pure Volta football it was.
There was a few passages of play where we were playing it in some really good areas. We were, linking up well. And this was the one where it came off. And, we've just spoke about Maxi, but all credit to him for not trying to put it in the net and actually playing it back across the face of goal. And I think, again, Willick in his interview after the match was like, I don't think I could have missed that. Like, I seen this come across as like, there's no way I'm missing this one. And he buried it. And,
Scotty doesn't have to move.
Well deserved from us.
He doesn't have to move.
Just have to jump.
He could have stood still. That ball could have just hit off him when the back of the net. And that's down to obviously the cross which comes over. Maxi, like Daniel said, just puts it on a plate for him. It's pinpoint that.
It was a very, very good, like I said, good passage of play all around. We made a few substitutes second half. I did have them up. Where are they gone? We changed our entire front three. We had Maxi, Isak, and Murphy come off for was it Joelinton, Gordon, and Wilson, and then Joe Willick seemed to go down with it looked like his hamstring, but he didn't bring it up at all after the game, so he must be okay. It must have just been a just in case, or even that we just take him off for Wednesday.
Scotty is probably just fucked.
That's true. That's true.
I'd be.
He had it before the cup final, didn't he? Where he was just knackered. He gets a tight hamstring, and he came off, and we thought before the cup final, oh shit, no. And then it just turns out he just needs to come off. He might have had a bit of cramp or whatever, a bit of tightness. So I imagine it's just the same. And in terms of Wednesday, I think those substitutions even highlight that we're probably going to go unchanged again. Maxi coming off after 70 minutes, Isak coming off after 75, 80, whatever it was, Murphy as well. I think it's a real indication that he's just going to go again with that same team.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about Anthony Gordon because he came on and he just seemed to be everywhere. He was running up and down the pitch. He was winning the ball. He was, just being a little bit of a shithouse, which is kind of what we signed him for, or what we knew him for. Maybe this is not what we actually signed him for. But Joe, what were your impressions of Gordon when he came on? He obviously has a point to prove. He's been out injured. He's fighting for a position. Did he do enough?
He's certainly getting there. I thought the vision that he had to almost put on a play for Isak only a few minutes after coming on was phenomenal. It was kind of one-on-one at one point, but then the defender was doing really well just to slow him down, and it was great vision. I still think that he's got a long way to go. But I'm liking his energy. I'm liking the interlink play that he's got. He's definitely a player that I can see having a long future here. It's going to take a bit of time, but I'm confident that Eddie Howe and the rest of the backroom staff would look at him and think he's a player that, you know, we can build a team around. And I think that you'll start integrating him into the side far more over the coming weeks. Hopefully he stays fit. Yeah, it's I'm not sure, because Murphy's done really well, and if he's going to be fighting for that place with Gordon, it's going to be a tough one. But, you know, I think when you buy a player for like 40 odd million quid, you're going to be looking to start, you know, playing him regularly more sooner than later. So just
to jump in on Gordon, just being in the ground, he was determined to win every single ball when he came on the field. He grafted his arse off. He was at every single player's ankles. And this was when we were 2-0 up. And every time Man United hit us, every single counter-attack, they wanted him to have the ball, because he was away. He was absolutely rapid every time he got it. And we got in some decent positions as well, with him being obviously the focal point of that. And I think what Joe's just said, yes, Murphy's had a great run in the team. He has. I don't, at this moment in time, he shouldn't get dropped. But I think if you look at next season, it's going to be Gordon at Almiron, obviously fighting for that one.
I think there's a good comment coming as well there about, you know, he is just back from an injury, but he did look quite sharp. He's still trying to get his match fitness. But yeah, I thought, you know, there's a lot to come from Anthony Gordon, and, you know, he is only, 21? So, I mean,
done it again, Scott.
You know,
you've done it again. Mention ages. Never mention ages. I know. Get it wrong.
I know. Never mention ages. Because I mean, what I was going to come to was we've also got Elliot Anderson who came on, and you know, we don't really talk about Elliot Anderson in the same way we talk about Anthony Gordon, and I think that's because he's got more experience, obviously, at Premier League level because of how Everton have used him. But those two coming up through the, you know, not coming up through the ranks, but for the future are players to build on. And they both did equally as well. I thought, you know, Elliot Anderson did okay when he came on. I felt like it did kind of kill our momentum on that the left hand side. Sorry, it's a different. He's a different type of player to what you get from St. Maximin. So you're not going to get him. You know, maybe he's taken on as many players as he did. And with Dan Burn at that point being as probably tired as he was, because he, can I just say, did very well against Rashford and Anthony. I think there was only once he maybe got undone, and that was when Dallo got through in the first half and had that
swapped a couple of times as well, Scott, throughout the game.
They did. But with him dealing with that old game, he couldn't really get forward as much once Anderson came on. So when Anderson was on, he was trying to rely on Joe Linton, who was coming from the middle to you know, have a ball to play. And, you know, he can only get better. I mean, we can say this about Gordon as well. These two players can only get better for us. And if they're performing like this now, the future's looking very bright for them. We'll come on to the second goal. Callum Wilson came on. I don't remember him doing much other than the goal, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think he was involved too much. He did hold the ball up a little bit just before, but I didn't see much. When you compare him to what Isak brings, in terms of Isak being all over the pitch, winning the ball, taking players on, that sort of stuff, he still looked a little bit off with that, did Callum Wilson to me. But Joe, it was a well-taken goal from Wilson. It's got to give him the confidence now to get more.
That's exactly what I thought. Tell you what, the absolute pinpoint accuracy for Trippier to get that ball on his noggin when you had Lindelof, who was either directly in front or directly behind him. He was pretty much marking him. He was wedged between two defenders. And to get that ball in, it was perfect. And you're right, he's really struggled. I think it's been, 13 games? Well, the last game, obviously, he scored was West Ham, and that was a while ago. And yeah, he's been dropped. He's not been able to get many minutes back into the side. And hey, tell you what, you know, it's a cliche, but strikers do run on confidence, and all it takes is one goal. Yeah, he may not be starting games from now on until the end of the season, but coming on as a sub role, giving defenders something different to work with. It can only give him confidence to say, you know what, I'm still that player. I'm still that guy who can get it in the back of the net. And it was a well-taken goal, posting in absolutely beautiful. I'm really pleased for him as well, because he is a hard worker. You can tell that he cares. He really wants to do well, and he's definitely still got a future at the club. And I'm happy for him.
I think what you get from Wilson is that press, Scott. It's honestly, he's constantly pressing the goalkeeper and defenders. He doesn't ever stop doing that. And I think when he came on, Man U got a bit more of the ball. And that's probably why we didn't see obviously what Isak was doing for the team. But Callum Wilson, every single chance he's closing players down like.
Well, Man U were pushing for to get the equaliser, so you would expect them to have a little bit more of the goal. I want to touch a little bit on the referee display because I don't think it gets highlighted enough.
Honking.
I thought today. Do you think it was honking? I thought he let a lot go, which was pretty well.
Yeah, I thought he did.
I would have a different opinion. Maybe it shows differently on the TV. But I thought Dan Burn would have at least had a yellow card from any other referee.
So you're looking at that.
Same thing.
20 minutes.
You're looking at that because I don't think a single player got booked. Bruno absolutely rinsed Weghorst. Is that what it's called? Weghorst. Weghorst.
Yeah.
So Weghorst absolutely rinsed him right at one point. And as soon as he'd done that, I said to Mark, who was sitting on the right hand side, I went, give it a couple of minutes. I went, next time Bruno gets a ball, he's getting clattered. About 20 seconds later, he gets absolutely smashed, right?
I remember that.
The referee at that point, he knows why he's been absolutely smashed into, okay? And I think, yes, it's always good to see referee let a lot of challenges go, okay? And just a bit of a telling off rather than a booking. But there's at one point, and I think Bruno had got fouled about 4 or 5 times within the space of 5-10 minutes. And even Bruno, at this point, got up and went to the referee, come on, this is 4 times now. And he was scared to do that. There was at one point where Rashford thought he got fouled by Dan Burn and his boot was hanging off and he stood up. He didn't get the free kick and he got his boot and absolutely smashed it into the deck. The referee at that point, obviously, it's dissent to a certain degree. There's at one point later on, not long after that, Rashford kicks the ball away as well for a Newcastle free kick. I thought he let a lot go, which is good to see at some points. But you need to take some sort of control because those challenges kept on coming in over and over again.
I'll give you that one to be fair. No, you're right. I mean, I remember Dan Burn getting a yellow card for smashing the ball into the ground. He got one the other week against Forest for just asking what the hell was going on. But, that was...
If Rashford does that with the ball, he gets a yellow card. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah. Right, exactly.
I think at one point, rather than putting his boot back on, because it's only coming off a tiny bit, he actually takes his boot off just to throw it on the deck like an absolute petulant child.
Actually, what about Fernandes as well?
Oh, wow.
Fernandes with that penalty shout.
Week.
Oh, my.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know.
I ran over the ref,
with him.
Then he ran over the linesman as well.
Yeah.
Is he the most hated player in the league, Bruno?
I think
Fernandes.
Yes, for me.
I can't stand him. He's horrible little rat.
I put this in the group chat. I can't see how he's their captain, how he behaves like that week in, week out.
Yeah,
because it is week in, week out. We thought it was
petulant.
because of Ronaldo, but he does it now without Ronaldo as well, and it gets worse and worse.
To be fair to him, at the end of the game, he was I think the majority of the Man United players just walked off the pitch, and he was the one that started grabbing them and saying, "No, get over there and applaud the fans." And he's a shithouse, but we have our shithouses, and we love them. Like Kieran Trippier is a shithouse, and he's obviously our vice captain, but really he's our captain as well. Like on the pitch, he is. Like Jamal Lascelles, our captain. He's got more bookings for getting in the way of thrones. Anyone else's fans will look at him and go, "What are you? These are horrible." So I think it's actually probably a good sign that he's the captain because everyone else absolutely hates him. I just think there comes a point where I think it's the diving that gets me. I know that some players dive, but he's not even clever with it. The one that he's either West Ham or Villa or something where he ran into a player's shoulder and fell over trying to get a free kick or a penalty. And that one in the first half against us was just a total joke.
What was quite
telling
as well.
Man U fans love that though? Do you think Man U fans love him because of that? Or do you think they're also like, get up, man, Howie, stop being such a Ben, stop whinging at the ref all the time?
Love it.
Or do you think they lap it up?
I think like most football fans will be the same as us. I think they'll love it. I think people want to win, and sometimes you've got to do certain things to win. I think as a neutral, he's hated. And obviously, when you're playing against him, he's hated because he is a very talented footballer. So I think they'll enjoy the fact that he gives everything, and that he's maybe willing to apply the dark arts to get them 3 points. I just think he needs to be better at doing it. That's what I was going to say.
I think they'd appreciate it if he could actually win stuff with it, but he doesn't. He fails at it miserably. Then just like pisses and moans for 2 minutes instead of actually getting on and doing the job.
That was a really strange moment as well. So the moment where he obviously went down in the box and he's on the deck for a while, and Fabian Shaw goes over to him and he's leaning over to him, pointing at him, and obviously you're having a go at him. Not a single Man United player came over to have a go at Fabian Shaw. Normally, you see people run over and defend the teammate. You didn't see it once today. Like it, that Man United was inferior to the Man United I was expecting today. They were piss poor.
That epitomised Man United today. They just weren't up for the fight. They weren't up for anything. They didn't want to have each other's backs. They didn't want to play for the ball. They just didn't seem like they wanted to be there. And I don't know if it was the atmosphere within the ground. Sky do that crazy thing where they kind of mute the fans a little bit. You don't hear it as loud, only when they want. So, Chris, I don't know what the atmosphere in the ground was like. I'm assuming today. It was outstanding.
It was loud today. There was at one point when...
Didn't seem that at times on the TV.
When Joe Lynn came on, the fans started chanting at the He's Brazilian song, and that was loud, really loud today. Similar when Gordon came on. But it's Scott, you'll know yourself. It's all about the acoustics in St James's Park. The away fans were loud at points today, which I didn't hear. But speaking to one of the lads in the pub afterwards, and he sits in the lasers, and he could hear them all game, mainly singing about Shearer as they do, like. But I didn't hear them once.
Nothing else.
They've got nothing else. No.
Yeah, Gary Neville did say that the atmosphere was in quotes, as he always says, electric. He said that the atmosphere was absolutely brilliant on the commentary. Like,
I think he said it's the best that he's seen it this season.
Can I just say as well? So this Amazon documentary isn't focusing on field things. There was 2 cameras in the strawberry corner today, facing the fans and facing the pitch, which were the Amazon cameras. So there must be some.
You have to have some footage on.
Yeah. Did they have primer along the side or something over there?
You could just tell. You could just tell by the setup. Everybody was called Alexa, right?
Unless it's YouTube channels are just getting more sophisticated.
We'll wrap it up in just a couple of minutes. If anyone's got any questions, just drop them in. We'll run through a couple if anyone are on there. I want to ask people about their man of the match, because I think this is the type of game where everyone's going to have a different opinion. Obviously, Bruno got it, and actually, he wasn't, in my eyes, a contender at all. I thought it should either go to Joe Willick or potentially Isak. For me, I thought they were the 2 best players on the pitch. But Daniel, I'll come to you first, mate. What was your kind of ideas around a man of the match for Newcastle?
Rough trying to pick this. Even at the time, I thought Isak was outstanding. I thought Alan St-Maximin, especially when the amount of people that said that he didn't deserve to start the game, just like absolutely brilliant when he got that assist. But I thought he was great throughout the game. But for me, the man of the match is a player that has impressed us all. However, for the last month, I think he's been absolute dog shit. I think he's been one of our worst players over the last month. And in the first half today, he was unbelievable. He was the one that allowed us to sustain attacks, and it was Sven Botman. I just thought every time they had any chance of even getting a sniff of something in the final third, he was just always there, covering for everyone, interceptions, tackles, amazing in the air. And when you've got a player like that, again, that allows you to sustain attacks, and especially when Marcus Rashford's comfortably one of the best players in the league, probably the best left winger in the league, and he had nothing to even feed on. And I think that is such an important thing for a football team, and one of the reasons how we could be so relentless was having him there. So for me, I agree, Isak, St-Maximin, right up there, but just for me personally, I thought it was Sven Botman.
Yeah, and this is why I've asked this, because I would never have thought Sven Botman to be a man of the match contender. So that's why we do it. Joe, what were your thoughts on man of the match?
Well, my first reaction was Willick, and I think the only thing that you can argue against him having man of the match was that he missed 2 golden opportunities, but then he scored, and he was absolutely integral to everything that we did up until he came off. He was consistently fantastic. But I'll go for a little bit of a left field choice just because we've spoken about Willick a lot, and I'm going to put out a shout out for Fabian Schär. The man had not 1 but 2 concussions for the team. And how many times is that man going to get absolutely battered in the head and get back up like there's nothing wrong with him? He was so angry to be taken off temporarily. And hey,
people are just too jealous of his face. That's what it is. He's just too beautiful. Everyone's trying to scup at that.
Everyone's just trying their best just to make him look less less than an absolute 11 out of 10, and they're just failing miserably. And he went on a couple of his trademark runs, trying to get, score a couple of screamers from outside the box, and he nearly got one. But defensively, he was fantastic. Him and Botman, yeah, you're right. I thought the pair of them were absolutely phenomenal in the right places at the right times. The passing as well out of the back, the interlinking with Bruno to start attacks off. Yeah, they were just fantastic. But you're right. I mean, you could literally pick half the team from that match.
Yeah.
That second head injury from Shea wasn't the nicest play of football you'll ever see, though. That crossing from Trippier, and it just kind of hits him in the face and flies into the Gallowgate end, and he's just down, and you're just like, wow, how's he down now? But I think we were saying he's got a head made of mush. Chris, mate, we'll come to you last for your man of the match for this one.
So I think obviously Willick's an obvious pick, closely followed by Bruno because he was everywhere today. But I'm going with Joe. Fabian today, honestly, he was absolutely everywhere on that field, and I love it when Fabian goes on his little adventures. Absolutely amazing when he just picks the ball up on the halfway line. Isn't it? It's great. He just keeps on going and going and going, and nobody ever closes him down, which I find mental. Because I think it's because they're so worried about
shoot from the minute he picks up the ball.
Well, they're worried about the wingers picking the ball up, and they don't realise Fabian's got a hell of a strike on him. He does.
Yeah.
And just you mentioned there the second concussion injury which he went down with, the bravery that he shows to throw his head onto that, because that's waist height, that ball coming in. He dives at it. So Fabian, for me, I said it in the pub afterwards, I went, it's going to be Willick or Fabian. But Bruno got it.
Yeah, just looking at the comments, there's a lot of shouts for Willick, a lot of shouts for Trippier as well, which we haven't mentioned. Grandad Salmon here, Sean Longstaff has come up there. Few shouts obviously for Willick and Bruno as well.
Can I just mention as well, Scott,
we've said,
before you move on? Okay. How weird does it look? Maxi wearing white boots?
I thought it actually looked quite nice.
Yeah.
Do you
know what it is?
I loved it.
Stacey said to me, she went, Maxi's got his blue boots on. Has he? Maxi blue boots, as she calls them. I was like, he's got white boots on. I don't know what's going on. It's just like
it's not very often you see a player wearing white or black boots. Bring them back.
Mickey Almiron wears black boots, but they look like the black boots you got, in PE when you forget your kit and they've got the boots in the back that you've got to put on. They look like the Mordies that you used to get from there.
And just, we haven't mentioned him yet. Longstaff once again. He made a couple of mistakes in that game, but honestly, the amount of grass he covers is second to none. He's everywhere, and it just brings up the point once again where people always look at that position and say Sean Longstaff needs replaced, right? Yes, to a certain degree he does, but you're not going to get that work rate from any other player.
I think the Sky commentators refer to him as Sean Longstaff. They said he should change his name to Longstaff, the Sky commentators, which, bad their jokes are. But the Fabian shares obviously like Homer Simpson in the boxing match.
I'll tell you what, with Longstaff, though, I feel he's getting into far more dangerous areas than he ever has been. He seems to be a lot more in and around the box. I think I can think of two opportunities off the top of my head today where he arguably could have buried them. I mean, I think he could have probably done much better. I know he slightly mishit one of them. However, he's been far more advanced in attacking recently, and it's really good to see. I think he's really improving as a player.
He's getting better. He's getting better each week.
Yeah,
he's becoming yet another undroppable player.
Can I just say as well, how huge of a win was that as well? Going into the game,
massive.
I was a little bit nervous. Man. I was nervous but confident in the same breath, and obviously it worked now. I favour that Casemiro is out of the game because he obviously when he plays Man U are a different team. Luckily for us, obviously he wasn't suspended and we took advantage of that. But the relief at not even at full time when the second goal went in, when Wilson's goal went in, I just thought this is fantastic. And I said before I went on air there that in the ground I was absolutely buzzing. You couldn't take the smile off my face. As soon as I walked in the pub afterwards, I just feel as if the energy was absolutely dumped out my body, just with absolute relief. Because I just honestly, the breath that I took, that's
you know what this reminds me of? This now, obviously, we're not going to win the league, but this reminds me of around about this time during the season that Leicester won it. And everyone was saying there's a point where they're going to drop off. There's a point where things are going to slow down. And it kind of got to sort of this point during the 15-16 season where you thought, oh, they're not slowing down here. This is consistent there. And I just feel although obviously it's going to be a massive challenge to keep this up and keep the wins up to get Champions League football, I just feel like there's just something about this team which gives me so much confidence and just belief that we're going to see this out. I mean, look, even if we don't get top 4, even if we get 5th, this season has just been absolutely incredible. But you're right, this feels like a really pivotal moment psychologically as well for the players to get over that cup loss, to realize that I know we've had a pretty decent record against the so-called Big Six this season, but this was a dominating performance on another scale. I remember back in Old Trafford, we really had to dig deep just to get a point. Same with the Emirates. And this was, I've never seen, I looking at the stats at the end of the game, I cannot believe, looking at those, that was a performance against Man United. It's unheard of.
I think it's worth mentioning as well that Ten Hag tried his hardest to get in the same mold as Alex Ferguson with the mind games. He'd done it before the cup final game, which probably worked to a certain degree. He tried it again this week for this fixture, and it absolutely failed massively. They tried it during the game. I think you mentioned it earlier, Daniel, that they tried a time waste early on, which it's came back and bit them in the arse. And his comments after the game, him and Luke Shaw, I think it was, I done an interview as well, basically saying Newcastle are playing above the level. Bollocks. Look where we are in the league. We're sitting above you, but we're not playing above our level. We deserve to be here, and we will be here for a lot longer.
I think Davey sums it up quite well,
that, isn't it?
Like Davey sums it up well in the comments where he says we've been consistent for 15 months. Like, we can keep this going.
Yeah,
like this isn't a fluke performance. If you think back to the Liverpool game, yes, we went down to 10 men. We were still the better side. Arguably the better side.
Hey,
I mean,
and you're gonna lose a game of football from like now and again, even as the better team. That's going to happen. It's famously said that the league is a marathon, not a sprint. After 38 games, the table won't lie. I do want to say one thing quickly, because those of you who were obviously at the ground and weren't watching it on TV, you wouldn't have seen Eddie Howe was getting interviewed before the game, and the journalist asked him. He said, so based on obviously the performance that you saw back in the cup final, is there anything that you're wanting to do tactically differently this time round? And obviously you're trying to goad him to say something, and Eddie Howe was like, I can't divulge on that, but we've looked at what's happening, what happened, and we've changed a few things tactically just to switch up the game plan. And I know that that's a very simple thing that managers are supposed to do and they're paid to do. However, given the history that we've had to endure with certain managers and being stuck in certain ways and being very stubborn to change things around. And to be fair, even Eddie Howe himself has been criticised slightly for being maybe a bit loyal, maybe a bit stubborn. Listen, today was just a really good example, I would say, of the kind of manager Eddie Howe is. He's not one to stick to things just because. He's flexible. He's intelligent. He's fantastic. To look at how things went so wrong, well, not so wrong, but how things went wrong in the Carabao Cup final, and then in such a short space of time as well, with the amount of games that we've had to be able to switch things up the way we did, and to switch on a completely different performance. I feel so lucky that we've got a manager that we do, and I think it's just a match made in heaven right now.
I think it needs to be mentioned as well that this season, obviously, 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the season now. Obviously, we're coming to the business end of the season, and I think that game, despite being in the league position that we are, I think that game right there that we're seeing today, and that dominant display, has made people probably look at this thinking, shit, like Newcastle or the business here, like.
The players didn't seem to look like they were playing under any kind of pressure, which is bizarre because this is a high pressure game. You've got this, obviously West Ham, then we've got Tottenham, and obviously Man United and Tottenham are the two teams that we need to leapfrog. I appreciate we've got the game in hand, but you've still got to do that. And their players, honestly, they played like they're playing against the dog and duck at times. It was absolutely amazing to see, especially at 1-0 up. That is when old Newcastle would just drop back and would be try and get nice and tight, 2 banks of 4, whatever it would be, maybe bank of 4 and a bank of 5, and just close off that space. And we didn't. We were, if anything, when Elliot Anderson was on, Anthony Gordon were pressing even higher, winning the ball back up higher, calmness personified at the back, and it's just so uplifting to see. And one of the best things is, you mentioned earlier on, we have struggled for injuries at times. We've never had both of our strikers fit. St Maximan's been out for large parts of the season. Now we've got pretty much, other than Miggy, a full strength squad, other than the games that we're making up. So this week, and I think there's one in about 5 or 6 weeks' time. It's just weekend to weekend, and we've got a full squad of substitutes, so that at 60, 70 minutes, we can change tactically, we can change the energy, we can change the formation, we can change the players with confidence, not who's the next best option here, but actually we can proactively go and change this game. So I'm in total agreement. I think the train's set off and it's not stopping until the end of the season.
Bullet train. Absolute bullet train, us lads.
Shinkansen.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I think, look at the next, 4 fixtures: West Ham away, Brentford away, Villa away, then Spurs at home.
That Villa one for me, that's the one where I'm thinking, because
Villa's
Villa are doing well.
I mean, Brentford are good.
Difficult as well. Brentford are really good.
West Ham dug out a win today.
West Ham are different beast at home as well. It's
but now I saw them all. We're mint.
Yeah, I feel like we can bring anyone on. I think there's tough games, but for us, I think at the minute we're in a good position where we shouldn't be no fear against anybody.
No.
Right. Does anyone have anything else they want to add before we wrap this one up, lads?
Yeah, that War Flags surfer was absolutely mint.
They didn't do it justice on the TV, by the way. They didn't show it for long enough. It was still getting up there by the time they cut away.
That's what she said.
But I think they are selling that as a mini flag, or they're pre-ordering it, at least going up. So if you got your name on it, I know a lot of people did, so that's going on there.
I do.
Anyways, thanks everyone for watching. There's 156 people currently watching, and I think there's been around that throughout the entire episode here. If you do like this, just scroll down from this video and hit the little thumbs up button. It does this channel wonders. And while you're down there, if you're not already, hit the subscribe button. We're so close to 10,000, we can almost reach out and touch it. We'd like to get there at least by the end of the season, if not beforehand. And if you want to be notified when new videos go live on the channel, you can hit the notification bell, and that will give you a pop-up on your device of choice with a little note to say that we are live or there's a new video available. 2 games this week coming up, lots of content. Tomorrow you've got the Over Smiling Faces podcast. We'll also be recording a match preview for that one tomorrow. We're doing Canny Chatter on Tuesday. That'll be an audio-only podcast. Episode 3 of that's coming up. There'll be a match reaction for the West Ham game. There'll be another match preview for Brentford. I'm losing count. What else?
I think there might even be an extra time this week as well. We are rammed.
There is, we are rammed. I hope hope your internet's all paid up and everyone's got a nice connection, because we're going to need it for the next week. Hope no one's got a data cap on their internet. Anyways, lots to come. And if you want to get early access to some of those videos, we do have a membership program. It's $2.99 a month. It gets you early access to all the pre-recorded videos that go live on the channel, as well as access to the Telegram group. I haven't looked at it yet. Hang on, let me tell you.
There's be chocker in there, mate.
It's chugger, yeah, it's chugger. It's not loading actually because I've got face lock on it and I'm not using my phone. It's absolutely chugger. So yeah, that gets you access to that. It's like a WhatsApp group, but that's $2.99 a month for the membership. There was a few people from the match reaction asking for access to that group. They weren't members, so if you want to get access to that group, you've got to be a member. It's an exclusive access to them. But thanks everybody for watching. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Chris. I've been Scott. This has been a match reaction for the 2-0 victory against Manchester United. I can't believe I'm saying that, but yes, we did it. We're third in the league. I think there's only 11 games to go. Let's get to Europe, shall we? Let's get a game at the Jordi Cruyff Arena, which is just over there, outside my window. It's just over there, so I can walk to a match for the first time in 6 years.
Let's do it.
I thought
where the lads? Come on.
I thought you were crossing your fingers.
Is it called the Jordi Cruyff Arena? Is it not the Johan Cruyff Arena?
Johan Cruyff Arena, yeah. No, it's because
I was thinking
that the Olympic Stadium.
I know we've just
got a Jordi Cruyff.
But was he that good?
I've got a Jordi Cruyff. What is it? Football management building next to me as well. So he's all over the place, both of them. Anyway, that's enough of that. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Cheers, everyone.
We won you now.
Thanks everyone. Get in.